It's a warm welcome here in our studio in Serekunda. This is Star TV News and I am Dado Cham. In the headlines tonight, tears as Gambian lawmakers gathered to say goodbye to Honorable Deaso, National Assembly member for Nyamina West, who died in Morocco while on a business trip. President Adama Barrow on Thursday presided over an emergency cabinet session following 3 years Jotna protests that turned violent. Gambia Moral Congress leader Mai Fati calls for withdrawal of charges against the 8 top brass of 3 years Jotna movement. Gambia has everything to worry about as 20 citizens are trapped in Wuhan. But top official at Gambian embassy in China says no Gambian has virus. On the international scene, Guinea-Conakry anti-government demonstrations continue with 2 people killed by security forces. Democratic senators wants to hear from Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, and others to bolster their case, but they need 4 Republicans in favor of their move to swing the vote. Police and protesters have clashed in India's capital after a man shot at protesters relying against the controversial citizenship law. Those were headlines and now the news in details. Gambian lawmakers, political party leaders and government officials gathered at the National Assembly to say goodbye to Honorable Deaso, National Assembly member for Nyamina West, who died on 24th January in Casablanca, Morocco, while on a business trip. The national flag was placed over Deaso's casket as late lawmaker lies in state at the ceremony that started at 12 p.m. and also attended by his family and friends. Vice President Dr. Aissatou Touré was present at the National Assembly and delivered a statement on behalf of the Gambian President, His Excellency Adama Barrow.
My heart is heavy and very saddened to stand before this August Assembly to pay tribute to Honorable Deaso, a man with whom we started this democratic journey. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Adama Barrow, is equally devastated by this sad development and has offered his condolences to the Honorable Speaker and members of the National Assembly, and as well as the Gambian Democratic Congress and the family of the late Honorable Deaso. Madam Speaker, those of us who follow proceedings of the National Assembly are aware that the late Honorable Deaso was indeed a giant for the Gambia Democratic Congress, a passionate Democrat and an exceptional parliamentarian who was respected across both sides of the National Assembly, with his wonderful tone of phrase, witty comments, and incisive mind. He has indeed manifested love for the Gambia and was so proud to represent his constituency. A tenacious campaigner who cares about people and never gives, always wanting to seek out and speak up for the silent voices. In this sacred house, where he served with honor and pride, Honorable Deaso now lies in state, being honored as a man of deep civility, quiet thoughtfulness. He has confidently lived the virtues of decency, humility, and steadfastness. His example of dignity and grace brought forth in us our better instincts. Never planned or borrowed, Deaso was one of those honorable members who proved that representation is all about people and wanted young people to be as passionate about it as he was all his life. He was forever optimistic. We thank him for his selfless service to the Gambia and the national assembly. Best of all, he was kind, inspiring, and so much fun to be around. We will miss him greatly, and our thoughts and prayers are with his wives, family, and the Gambian Democratic colleagues. His Excellency President Barrow extends his appreciation to the government of Morocco for supporting his citizens' cause to be repatriated and giving the right attention to ensure we are able to give him this brilliant right. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive his shortcomings and grant him eternal firdaus, protect his family, and guide those of us here today to continue to serve our people with honesty and fairness. May his soul rest in peace.
In a message sent to media houses, His Excellency President Adama Barrow has sent condolences to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Mariama Jack Denton, on the sudden death of the National Assembly member of Nyamina West, Deaso, who passed away in Morocco. On behalf of the government and the people of the Gambia, President Barrow expressed heartfelt condolences to Speaker Jack Denton and through her office to the National Assembly and the Sow family. My thoughts and prayers are with you in these trying times. The demise of Honorable Sow is a great loss to his family and the National Assembly as well as the entire nation because of his service to his constituency and the country. Honorable Sow's political engagement towards the advancement of our democracy was admirable, President Barrow said in a letter to the Speaker. The message concludes, His Excellency President Adama Barrow has presided over an emergency cabinet session on Thursday, January 30th, 2020, to discuss matters relating to events that happened on Sunday, 26th January. The Information and Communication Minister, Honorable Ibrahim Masila, said the cabinet session called for calm and reinforced the Gambians' commitment to democratic principles it considered scarce. The government has called on all Gambian people to remain calm and assure them that the situation is under complete control. Minister Silla spoke to the media immediately after the special session.
Thank you so much. Cabinet has just finalized the emergency meeting during which we discussed the events that happened during the weekend on Sunday, the 26th of January to be precise. And Cabinet has taken note of a number of issues, and we want to call on the generality of the Gambian people to remain calm and to assure them that the situation is under complete control. We also want to assure the international community of our sacred duty to be committed to the democratic principles, and that Gambia government will continue to be engaged in those sacred principles, that the Gambia is calm, peaceful, and that we call on the Gambian people to support the government in that directive to ensure that we sustain the peace that actually is in this country. Well, this is a legal matter now, and we cannot definitely comment on issues that are before the courts.
The leader of Gambia Moral Congress, GMC, Mai Ahmed Fati, has called on the state to withdraw all 3 charges against the 8 top thrust of 3 years Jotna movement on Thursday. Fati's comment came just a day after the leadership of the movements were paraded before Kanifing Magistrate Court, being remanded at Mile 2, Central Prison in the outskirts of Banjul. Maimunaju files in this report.
I called on the Gambian government to withdraw the case against Gambians who are currently standing trial for the alleged disturbances of last Sunday, 26 January 2020, he stated. Mai, who served as the first interior minister under the current dispensation, believes that it will be unjust to ban 3 years without banning its parallel force. There are 2 movements, 3 years Jotna and 5 years peace and development. They should be treated equally. If you ban 3 years that led to the formation of 5 years, then naturally you should ban 5 years. If you deal with one group in one manner, it will be incomplete if you don't deal with the other in the same manner, because if you don't do that, the one that is not banned will continue to propagate their ideas and everybody should be treated equally, Fati urged. He advised the president to lead the initiative of the much-needed national dialogue to be able to achieve national unity. I call on President of the Republic, His Excellency Adama Barrow, to engage all stakeholders, particularly former coalition leaders, and call for genuine national dialogue without delay. I call on ECOWAS, African Union, and United Nations to facilitate the conduct of a national dialogue without delay, he further told journalists in a press conference. According to him, all coalition political parties and players must take full responsibility of the political mess Gambia is confronting with, stating that no one among them could be exempt from the problem. All political parties and all politicians have a hand in what is happening today. I do not believe that anybody can come clearly and say, yes, my hands are clean. We have all contributed to the existing negligence. Reporting for Star TV News, I am Maimunaju.
20 Gambian citizens are trapped in the central China city of Wuhan, where a deadly virus is wreaking havoc. Nearly 8,000 people have been infected with the virus, and almost 200 victims have died so far. The virus has no known cure yet. Winter Colley reports.
A Gambian student in Beijing told the Fatu Network they are living on a knife edge as health officials visit them at their school every day to perform checks on them. Their food stocks also are fast running out because most of the shops are closing down, she added. Ms. Fatou Kine Diop, the charge the affairs of the Gambia embassy in Beijing, has, however, told the Fatu Network that no Gambian living in China is confirmed to have contracted the deadly coronavirus. The Gambia embassy in Beijing, China is in close contact with the Gambian Student Union in China and the Gambian Association in Zuhru, and also Gambian citizens in China are advised to monitor the situation and take preventive measures. In Wuhan, Hubei province, the epicenter of the disease, there are 20 Gambian students living there, but no Gambian citizen is infected with the virus in China, Ms. Job said. According to her, the 5,974 confirmed coronavirus cases and 132 deaths have been reported on the Chinese mainland as of Tuesday midnight, adding about 2,300 medical workers from across the Chinese mainland arrived in Hubei province on Tuesday to aid in the diagnosis and treatment of the pneumonia disease caused by a novel coronavirus. The Gambia is confident in China's ability to overcome the crisis, she said. For Star TV News, I am Binta Koli.
We're going for a short break and we'll be back with the international news. And now the news beyond our borders. Anti-government protests have turned violent in Guinea capital Conakry, with 2 people killed by security forces in as many days. At least 22 people have died since demonstrations began in October. Al Jazeera Nicholas Gage reports.
A standoff in Guinea's capital. Tear gas filled the streets as another round of mass anti-government protests turned violent. Police used slingshots with stones as they tried to disperse the crowds, and protesters fought back. Arrests were made by security forces.
My mother told me to go to the garage to work. I told her there's a strike on today. She wanted me to go anyway, but I went outside. The police arrested me. I was just trying to get to work.
This building was set alight in the demonstrations. It was a local business. A coalition of opposition groups calling itself the National Front for the Defence of the Constitution has been spearheading the protests. It called for a national strike on Wednesday, which saw many shops close.
Since last night, police have been deployed in the area to secure Conakry against these unauthorised protests, but we are assuring the community that we have this under control.
The West African country has been hit by rolling protests since mid-October over concerns President Alpha Condé will seek a third term in office. He first came to power in 2010 and his second and final 5-year term in office is coming to an end this year. The opposition claims he plans to use a new constitution to extend his 2-term limit. Until this is ruled out, it's unclear when the unrest will end. Nicola Gage, Al Jazeera.
A chartered plane has brought out the first group of South Koreans who have been trapped in Wuhan. The South Korean government has set up 2 quarantine centers, prompting protests from some residents. Al Jazeera reporter Mike Bright reports.
Arriving in Seoul after days of delays, a specially chartered plane returning 368 people who'd been living in Wuhan. Around half the number of South Korean nationals trapped there and wanting to leave. Some were found to have fevers and taken to hospital. The rest were heading here, to one of 2 makeshift quarantine centres south of the capital. Their presence has led to protests from people living nearby, and police had to remove roadblocks. The government sent a minister to reassure protesters, but he was met by angry shouts and eggs being thrown.
Of course, local residents will be worried by the prospect of patients coming to their area, but the coronavirus is transmitted in 2 ways, by contact or by respiratory droplets, so you'd need to be within 1 to 2 metres of the patient to be in danger.
As the convoy bringing the evacuees approached, other people turned out to welcome them.
It's only natural for the country to bring back our citizens and treat them. What's more, the people coming here have passed the screening and don't have symptoms.
After an exhausting night of travel and health screenings, their journey is finally at an end. But now starts the quarantine in a place they'll have to call home for the next 2 weeks. Each person will have their own room and are allowed to keep their phones and computers. But there'll be no visitors while their conditions are monitored to make sure they are free from the coronavirus. At least, as one of the evacuees told us through their social media account, they're back on South Korean soil, and what they call the nightmare of Wuhan is behind them. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Asan, South Korea.
U.S. Republican Senator Lamar Alexander, who Democrats hoped will support calling new witnesses at President Donald Trump's impeachment trial, says he will oppose the move for fresh evidence. Democratic senators want to hear from Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton, and others to bolster their case, but they need 4 Republicans in favor of their move to swing the vote. Al Jazeera's Zahab Ratensin reports from Washington, D.C.
After the second and final day of cross-examination of House Democrats and White House lawyers in the U.S. Senate, a significant moment in Donald Trump's impeachment trial. Tennessee Republican Lamar Alexander announced ahead of Friday's scheduled 4-hour debate that he would not vote for the introduction of more witnesses and documents. His argument is that there's no need for more evidence to show that President Trump withheld aid to pressure the Ukrainian government to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden and his son Hunter. He did. But while that was inappropriate, doing so did not rise to the level of a high crime and misdemeanor and the removal of the president from office. Alexander also said in a statement that the whole impeachment process had been, quote, shallow, hurried, and wholly partisan, with the potential to rip the country apart, a major argument of Trump's lawyers.
We're in an election year. There are some in this room that are days away from the Iowa caucuses taking place. So we're discussing the possible impeachment and removal of the President of the United States, not only during election season, in the heart of the election season. And I think that this does a disservice to the American people.
The Democrats then did not convince Alexander that by definition a trial should have witnesses.
It is certainly in their interest and the President's interest that we have a fair trial. A trial without truth, without key evidence, without witnesses and documents, would render the President's acquittal meaningless.
As things stand, that means the Democrats are very unlikely to get the 51 votes they need to call for witnesses. The most they could hope for is a draw of 50 for and 50 against witnesses and documents, unless there's a major surprise. And the expectation is a draw would mean the motion for new evidence will be judged to have failed. Alexander's decision makes it very likely that the president will be acquitted after what's expected to be many hours of debate on Friday. The White House's goal, though, of an acquittal before Donald Trump delivers his State of the Union address next Tuesday, appears to have all but been achieved. Shia Britansi, Al Jazeera, Washington.
Police and protesters have clashed in India's capital after a man shot at protesters, rallying against the controversial citizenship law. It is the latest outbreak of violence in weeks of nationwide protest against the law, which puts minorities from 3 neighboring countries on a fast track to gaining citizenship but exclude Muslims. Al Jazeera Elizabeth Paranam reports from New Delhi.
Defiant and undeterred, protesters gathered at Jamia Millia Islamia University, where a man opened fire just hours earlier. Mobile phone video shows him brandishing a gun at protesters and journalists as he walks backwards towards police officers. He's heard praising Delhi police and threatening protesters.
We are feeling unsafe. There is no rule of law in the country right now. As you can see, how is the things going on here? But we rush to this point to save our constitution, to save our country from this fascist government.
One student was taken to hospital after being shot in the arm.
There is a tense standoff here between protesters and police who won't let people go past that point. Protesters here had been planning to march to a memorial to one of India's founders, Mahatma Gandhi, on the 72nd anniversary of his killing by a Hindu nationalist. But after the shooting, police have cordoned off the area around the university and closed 3 metro stations.
Police are questioning the gunman, whose Facebook profile is said to contain extremist views. They included a post praising the man who in 1948 assassinated Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of the campaign for India's independence from British rule. Protests have been held across the country since the Hindu nationalist government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi passed the Citizenship Amendment Act last month. The law fast-tracks citizenship to minorities from 3 neighbouring countries, but not Muslims. Mahmood Pracha is one of many lawyers who filed petitions against the law at India's Supreme Court, saying it's discriminatory.
BJP only thrive on terror, only thrive on creating insecurities, only thrive on violence. And second, lies and absolute lies. There is no other thing on which they thrive. And that is what exactly they are doing.
2 BJP politicians have been banned from campaigning for 3 days in Delhi's upcoming local elections after saying protesters should be shot and likening demonstrators to rapists and murderers. Dozens of people have been killed in 7 weeks of protests. Critics of the government point out that while demonstrations have taken place around India, the deaths have only occurred in states ruled by the BJP. The Prime Minister says the citizenship law helps people from other countries who've been persecuted for their faith, but protesters say both him and the law threaten the foundations of a secular India. Elizabeth Puranam, Al Jazeera, New Delhi.
And before we end the news, a recap of our main headlines. This as Gambian lawmakers gathered to say goodbye to Honorable Deaso, National Assembly member for Nyamina West, who died in Morocco while on a business trip. President Adama Barrow on Thursday presided over an emergency cabinet session following 3 years Jotna protests that turned violent. Gambia Moral Congress leader May Fati calls for withdrawal of charges against the 8 top brushed of 3 years Jotna movement. Gambia has everything to worry about as 20 citizens are trapped in Wuhan, but top official at Gambian embassy in China says no Gambian has virus. That's all for this edition of the news. Please enjoy the rest of our programs and join us tomorrow for more news. Thank you.